السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the Fiqh of Marriage and what's related to it from the book of or by Sheikh Ibrahim Zidan rahimahullah. And the book originally was a lecture by the Sheikh rahimahullah. Then it was compiled to be a book with various chapters, and then some questions that the Sheikh rahimahullah from his fatwa, from his question and answers in the subject. And this time, inshallah ta'ala, we reached chapter number 5 in what's forbidden for a person to marry, al-muharramat. And as we know that this is a matter of deen, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted, and He's the one that forbids, He's the one that permits, and He's the one that forbids. And the halal and the haram is only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the beauty of this deen, the haqq, the truth, that is to be taken from wahi, revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the matter very clear. It's not left for individuals to invent and to make up their own ways of rulings. Human beings, they tend to be unjust. And those who have power, they tend to manipulate those who are weak. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most high. He's the most wise, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our job is to learn what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted and what He forbade and the rulings of that, and to apply it in our life. Sheikh rahimahullah, when he mentioned in the beginning the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ فَرَضَ فَرَائِدَ فَلَا تُضَيِّعُوهَا وَحَدَّ حُدُودًا فَلَا تَعْتَدُوهَا. That indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obligated fara'id, obligations. فَلَا تُضَيِّعُوهَا. Do not waste it, do not turn away from it. Tadhi' is when someone abandons something, when someone would waste something. So these are obligations. That means we're supposed to apply it and to do it in the most perfect way. وَحَدَّ حُدُودًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made limits. فَلَا تَعْتَدُوهَا. Do not transgress the limits. So if the fard is to be applied in a specific way, then therefore do not transgress the limits. If dhuhr is 4 rak'ah, do not pray it 5 rak'ah. If with matters of marriages, as we heard before, to some people it might be an obligatory act, and it's definitely in general it's such a recommended act, and a person and Muslims should take the means to not to imitate the ways of the disbelievers or the ways of the sinners, because any relationship between men and a woman that is not forbidden for him, because that's one of the importance of knowing what's forbidden. That means they are maharim. They are the ones where women, they can be without hijab in front of, to some of them, not all of them, of course, according to the categories of what's forbidden. So therefore, if a woman is not forbidden for a person to marry, it's not permissible for them to gaze, to be alone together, to have a mixed gatherings where people can see each other, look at each other. Certain very strict rules, and therefore people need to take the means to get married, and this is all to protect the ummah, the entire ummah of the Muslimin, and the communities and the families and the children. It's all parts of the rights of raising children in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with, and so on. So there are limits not to transgress it, and therefore to understand these limits and to understand these obligations is a good deed, is mandatory for some people to know it, and for the people to have the knowledge of it, and to ask the people of knowledge. So part of these limits, religious limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in the subject of marriage, what's halal and what's haram. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade on a man to marry specific women with specific relationship, whether it's because of a relationship or whether it's because of breastfeeding, as it's going to be mentioned, or as a result of marriage. Marrying someone forbids specific people that they were not forbidden before. So whether it's originally one's lineage, one's relationship, blood relationship, or because of al-rida' or breastfeeding, or the third category is because of marriage itself. And therefore the muharramat here, so this is 3 categories will be mentioned inshallah ta'ala. But as far as what's forbidden for a person to marry, they are of 2 categories. One is forbidden forever. Muharramat da'iman, till the abad, till, forever they are forbidden. Nothing is going to happen to change that ruling for an individual. And the second category is that they are forbidden only temporary or for a specific reason. And once that reason is gone, then it's permissible for them to get married. And permissibility meaning they are not haram for the person, they're not mahram for the person. And there are certain rulings that applies as a result of that. The first category within the 3 categories, so that we have 3 categories, and that is those who are forbidden because of a blood relationship. The second one, forbidden because of rida' or breastfeeding. And the third one, forbidden because of musahara or marriage itself. And the major 2 categories, and each category would have these 3 categories, is one forbidden forever versus what's not forbidden forever. So the first one, which is forbidden forever, the 3 categories apply. Some of them are forbidden forever because of the relationship, the blood relationship. And this is clearly stated in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 23. Surah An-Nisa, verses number 23. And there are 7 types of people. حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم وبناتكم وأخواتكم وعماتكم وخالاتكم وبنات الأخ وبنات الأخت. 7 types of women where it's forbidden for men to marry because of blood relationship, clearly stated in the verse number 23, Surah An-Nisa. And that is the mothers, ummahatukum, your mothers. And when the mothers are mentioned, meaning the mother, which is well known, the mother of a person, and the grandmother and the grandmother, and so on. And the grandmothers or the grandfathers, so they're all forbidden, whether it's from the mother side or the father side, and they all come under the category of the mother. So the mother is forbidden, and what they call it an above. Above means, in the origin of the person, is the grandmothers, whether it's grandmothers or grandfathers. So because al-jaddat in Arabic, al-jadda is the one that is of the lineage before the mother, and that can be understood to be from the mother side or from the father side. So all grandmothers and grandfathers are forbidden also for the person. So al-ummahat are the first one. The second one, al-banat, which is wabanatukum, and your daughters. And that is one's daughter and the daughters of one's sons, or the daughters of one's daughters, and it keeps on going down. All of that is forbidden. So grandsons, great-grandsons, and so on, and daughters, So this is what al-banat, or the daughters, and what goes down in the branch of a person. All of that is forbidden for a person to marry. Therefore, of course, the mother would sit with her children without wearing hijab and to wear the normal clothing at home and things like that. And the same thing for one's daughters. Number 3, al-akhawat. Al-akhawat are the sisters, and that includes the full sisters. That means they share the same father and mother. They're sisters from the same father and mother, and the paternal sisters and the maternal sisters. Paternal sister from the father's side. They have the same father but different mothers. And maternal sisters, those who have the same mother but different fathers. So all of the sisters are forbidden, of course, because of the ayah. Number 4, al-ammat wa ammatukum, your aunts. And al-ammat or al-amma refers to the sister or the aunt from the father's side. The sister from the sister of the father. So these are the aunts from the father's side, which is very clearly the sisters of the father and the sisters of the grandfather and above. And the same thing, from the mother side, of course, which is very obvious. Right? So this is like the amma is, or ammatukum is from the father side, or there's a male in between. right? So the same thing applies for the mother. So the mother, she has a father, one's mother, her father is the grandfather, right? So the sister of that mother, or the sister of her father, so the amma of the mother is also forbidden for the person. And the amma of the grandmothers are also forbidden. So any ammat, whether it's from the father side or from the mother side. وَخَالَتُكُمْ number 5 is the aunt also, but from the mother side. Al-Khala, as the Prophet ﷺ said, is a mother, which is the sister of the mother. The sister of the mother, and above, of course, the grandmother and so on. And the same thing for the sister, for the Khala of the father. The father of a person, he has aunt from his mother's side. They're also forbidden and above. The grand, from the other higher level and so on. So this is al-khalat in general. The aunt from the mother side, meaning that they are related directly without a male in between. Number 6, وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ, and number 7, وَبَنَاتُ الْأُخْتِ. بَنَاتُ الْأَخِ, the daughters of the brother. The daughters of the brother. And whether the brother is a full brother from the same mother or father, or they are a brother from a paternal brother or a maternal brother, right? So their daughters are forbidden, and what's below, their granddaughters and so on. وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ, the daughters of one's brother. And number 7, the daughters of one's sister. وَبَنَاتُ الْأُخْتِ, whether it's a full sister or a paternal sister or a maternal sister, and what goes below. So these are the 7 categories of those who are forbidden, or the 7 types, those who are forbidden with an-nasab, with lineage, with blood relationship. And they're, of course, forbidden forever. Forever for the person means that there's nothing that's going to happen to make them, for example, permissible. It's not just because they're married, for example. Whether they're married or not married or single or divorced or whatever, they are forbidden. And since they are forbidden, that means they can be mahram for the person. He can travel with them. They wear the normal clothing when they are with, the same gathering and so on. So these are the 7 different types of people, as mentioned clearly in the surah, in the verse in the Quran. The second category of those who are forbidden forever also, which is forbidden by al-rida', forbidden because of breastfeeding. When we talk about breastfeeding, what forbids a person, they're originally not forbidden, but because of breastfeeding, they become forbidden. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, يَحْرُمُ مِنَ الرَّضَاعِ مَا يَحْرُمُ مِنَ النَّسَبِ. What's forbidden from an-nasab, or from the blood relationship, is also forbidden by the rida' or breastfeeding. But that breastfeeding, that means the 7 categories that we talked about are the same, but with breastfeeding. We'll talk about that inshallah ta'ala. But what's meant by the breastfeeding here, is it 1 time? Is it 2 times? What constitutes, what makes it haram for breastfeeding? There has to be conditions fulfilled. Right? A woman, she would breastfeed her children. This is very obvious. But in many cultures or many situations, that the woman would breastfeed someone else, another child that is not her child, and that used to be even in some cultures. And at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there are women, this is their job, especially when, say, for example, the mother is not able to do such a thing. And instead of giving the child something that is manufactured, it's better to have natural milk from another woman. And this is better for the child than to have something manufactured, for example, right? The formulas and the like of this. And this is part, by the way, one of the rights of a child, unless it's not feasible, right? So a person in a place where nobody does these types of things. So the first condition is that it has to be 5 breastfeeding sessions or times or more. So if a child breastfed by a woman 4 times, she's not a mother of breastfeeding for him, right? She is not forbidden on him if it's 4 times, if it's 3 times. But if it's 5 times, then it's becomes his mother from breastfeeding. That means she is forbidden on him. And they call it mother, ummuhu min al-rada'a, because everything else, all the relationship that we heard before, becomes forbidden also because of the breastfeeding. And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in Sahih Muslim that the Sheikh mentioned, that Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, كان فيما أنزل من القرآن 10 رضعات معلومات يحرم. That used to be of what has been revealed in the Quran, 10 times of breastfeeding known that would forbid the person. Then نسخنا بخمس معلومات. Then it was abrogated, changed, the rulings changed with 5. فتوفي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهي فيما يقرأ من القرآن. The Prophet ﷺ died and it was from what's being recited in the Quran. So it has to be 5. The second condition is that this rida' or this breastfeeding has to be before weaning the child. Right? So it has to be 5 breastfeeding. And when we say خمس رضعات, that means the child would be breastfed till he is full. That means he would reject it. That means it's not just a one suckling here or there, but means he is, he's breastfed till he's done 5 times. And that is before the age of weaning, before he's weaned. Because after the child is weaned, right, then it's not valid. It's not counted as one of the ridah. Or, for example, he was breastfed from a specific woman 2 times before he was weaned and 3 times after he was weaned. That's not valid. She's not his mother from a ridah. It has to be before he's weaned. And a child can be weaned when he's 1 year old or whatever. So once he's weaned, then the ridah is not valid if it happened afterwards. And by the way, when we say a ridah or breastfeeding, it doesn't have to be the physical breastfeeding. Like for example, if a woman gets her, the milk from her breast and by a pump or whatever means, and that milk, a child will drink it, and it's full, it makes him full. This is considered to be breastfeeding. It doesn't have to be that he is physically breastfeeding from a specific woman. So if these conditions of a ridah, which is 5 times at least, and it's before weaning the child, then the child or that person becomes a son or a daughter for that woman that breastfed him. So therefore, all the 7 previous categories becomes forbidden for him. That means that woman's children, the biological children, they become brothers and sisters to the one that she breastfed. So they are forbidden for that person. If we consider, for example, a male child, he breastfed from a specific woman, and that woman, she has children, daughters, for example. So these daughters are his sisters from ar-rida'a, from breastfeeding. So they are forbidden forever unto that person. Whether she had the children before or after, it doesn't matter. It's not just the daughters that she gave birth after she breastfed a specific child. No, even the daughters from before. And this woman is married to a man, right? And he's considered to be as they call him, Sahib al-Laban. He's the one that the reason for her to have, to be able to breastfeed. So that father or that husband, right, becomes the one that was breastfed, becomes his father from breastfeeding. And also if he has sons or he has daughters, they become sisters in breastfeeding because he's the father, right? So once a person is breastfed, people need to know the relatives. Why? Because they will be forbidden for the person. So but as far as the relationship comes from the child that was breastfed, that he has nothing to do with the breastfeeding, they're not forbidden. So say for example, a man, the child, his name is Omar, right? He was breastfed. The brothers of Omar are not forbidden from the daughters of the woman that breastfed Omar. They have nothing to do with him. His brothers, his relationship has nothing to do with this forbidden ruling here. It's only Omar related to whatever he breastfed from. So his mother from ar-rida'a. the husband, her husband becomes his father from al-rida'a. And then you go back to the 7 categories. So the daughters from al-rida'a, this is related to the husband of the woman that she breastfed. So if she breastfed girls, then they become his daughters from breastfeeding, sisters from breastfeeding, right? That means they're his sisters because they are the daughters of the mother that breastfed him. The aunts from the father's side of the one that breastfed, and the same thing from the mother's side, and the daughters of the brother and the daughters of the sister from al-rida'a. So the same 7 categories applies for the al-rida'a or the breastfeeding. And the same thing if a child have offsprings and sons and daughters, they become also grandsons to the mother from breastfeeding, so they are also forbidden from her. So this is with regards to the who are forbidden forever, the second category, which is because of breastfeeding. The third one, which is al-muharramat bis-sihr, means that because of a marriage, certain individuals, they become forbidden. Very briefly, and if you don't get it understood this time, inshallah ta'ala, we can repeat it if you have questions also next time. But briefly, they are the first one, the wives of a father, which is basically the stepmothers of a person. So a father get married to someone else other than one's mother, then that woman becomes forbidden for his child forever, right? And the same thing, the wives of the grandfather. A grandfather married someone, then she is forbidden for his offsprings and grandchildren and so on. So whether it's from the father side or the mother side, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا مَا نَكَحَ آبَاؤُكُم مِنَ النِّسَاءِ, do not marry what your fathers married from the women. So, and this is forever. That means even if they're divorced, it is not permissible for their sons or grandsons to marry them. So زوجات الآباء والأجداد, the wives of the fathers and the grandfathers and so on, whether it's on the mother side or the father side. The second category is the wives of the sons and the grandsons and so on. وَحَلَائِلُ أَبْنَائِكُمْ الَّذِينَ مِنْ أَصْلَابِكُمْ, the same verse in Surah An-Nisa. So if a man had a marriage contract, just with the contract, someone get his son married to a woman, and they made the marriage contract, this woman becomes forbidden for his father, forever, even if they divorce before consummating the marriage. So the daughters of the sons, the daughters of the grandsons, and so on. Number 3, the mother of the wife and her grandmothers and so on. وَأُمَّهَاتُ نِسَائِكُمْ. Once the marriage is also the contract of marriage, the aqd is done, then the mother of the wife becomes forbidden forever, even if the marriage is not consummated. The fourth category are the daughters of the wife. The daughters of the wife, a person married a woman and she has daughters, and the daughters of her sons and the daughters of her grandsons and so on. This is called Rabiba, or Al-Raba'ib is the plural. Right? But this was with a condition, with consummating the marriage. So if a man married a woman and the contract only, the nikah is only done, the contract of marriage is done, and this woman, she has daughters, by the contract, these daughters are not permissible for the person to see and sit with and so on. They're not forbidden for the person yet, till the marriage is consummated. Once the marriage is consummated, then the daughters of these wives, or this wife and her granddaughters and so on, they become forbidden. Right? And this is also forever. So these are, things are forbidden forever by the 3 reasons of why they are forbidden. They're all forbidden forever. Then the second category is what's forbidden to a specific time. And this is very briefly that means a temporary only. But when we think of temporary forbiddance, this is any woman that is married, right? This is any woman that is married. So it's not permissible for her to marry someone else unless she's divorced and after the iddah and so on. So it's not permissible for a person to look at or to sit with alone or travel with and so on. And the same thing for those who are forbidden to a specific time, which is the sisters of one's wife, her sisters and her aunts from both the father side or the mother side. That means a person cannot marry a woman and her sister at the same time. If he marries someone, her sister becomes forbidden for him, unless he divorces his wife and after the iddah is finished, the waiting period, then he can marry her sister. But while he's married to that woman, her sister is forbidden for him. Does that mean that the sister of the wife, he can sit with her and they can look at each other and they can travel alone together? No, it's not permissible. She's a stranger to him, right? Because some people, they think since she's forbidden on him to marry, that means they can travel. It's not forbidden forever. It's only those who are forbidden forever that the person becomes a mahram to them. But the wife's sister, she is, the Prophet ﷺ, he made it very clearly that the man should not enter on the woman when he was asked about the relatives of the wife and so on. He said, Al-Hamul Maut, or the brother of the husband is death. That means it's forbidden. So the sister of the wife, her aunt from the mother side or from the father side. And this is till if she dies, the wife, or they're divorced, then they can get married to her sister or her aunts and so on. What's forbidden is to marry them both at the same time. And the second category is the one that is in the waiting period after divorce. Of course, anyone that is married is not permissible for to marry anyone. And also is if the one in her iddah, waiting period, if after divorce, the first or the second divorce, this is, still the marriage relationship is still valid, or after the death for 4 months and 10 days. Also, the one that is in state of ihram. If a woman is in state of ihram by hajj or umrah, is not permissible to get married till she's done with al-ihram. Once she's relieved from al-ihram, then she can get married. Before that, it's forbidden. And there are other things, but this is very just briefly. And of course, if the woman in her menses, it's permissible to get married to someone in her menses as far as the contract is concerned, but not consummating, of course, the marriage. So this is briefly what's forbidden in marriage. And we'll stop here, inshallah. We're out of time. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.